So real quick, if you are taking notes and you already have pen and paper, this is titled Under Pressure. Under Pressure. Real quick, here's my little illustration that I just want to use just for a moment because we're going to, 15 minutes or less, give you this message. Right here, we have two beverages, okay? You can probably tell by the shape and the look that what they are, okay? But real quick, this one right here, what do you think this is? Water, okay? It's a clear beverage. It's in a container. It's a bottle. And if I shake it and if I drop it, it's kind of okay. I have no problems, right? After shaking and doing all of this stuff to open it up and just take a sip. Anyone else? Anyone else? Right, come to the, are you thirsty? Right, so you would have no problem. But this one right here, what do you think this is? Okay, you think it's Sprite. Now, I am over 21, but this is definitely Sprite, okay? Just in case this gets on the YouTubes later and you are wondering, parents, what we're doing here. This is definitely Sprite. And PT said a couple Sundays ago, obey your thirst, right? So great illustration. So if I took this bottle and I shook it up, and I dropped it. That youth budget about to pay for some new monitor, right? Thank God for a good cat. I just shake it up, and I just, it goes through so much. And then I said, is there anyone willing to drink from, right? Y'all, all the middle schoolers, like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. Right? You're eager for it to happen. But just imagine, like, if I wanted to, I would be nervous about my shoes if I were to open no cap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would be a little nervous if this were to take the cap off and just spew everywhere. And how many of you can tell me the difference between the two? Why would this one concern me to open and not this one? Yes. Carbonation. So when it goes through an experience like being shaken up or dropped, it's going to build what on the inside? Pressure. Y'all are the smart group, right? That's why you're here. This one has pressure. Here's my question that's taking us into the night. Why can two things that look similar in similar containers, both are clear beverages, have a different reaction to what they experience? Why is it that whenever something happens at your house or to you at school, you feel so much pressure, but when you hear another friend going through it, it doesn't seem like they're going through any pressure? I don't understand the difference in my life when I'm looking at other people around me going through similar situations, and they seem to be under pressure, or I seem to be under pressure and they're not. And I would just quickly say, for the sake of time, that the difference, as you well know, is what's on the inside. And this is the part where you expect the cringy youth pastor to say, you need Jesus on the inside of you to take out all that pressure. And that is not what this cringy, I am cringy at times, but that is not what I'm going to say. I do want to say this, that it's what's on the inside that makes the difference. Because on the inside, you see all these bubbles. To me, in my mind, for this illustration, it's almost like each one of these bubbles of carbonation, it adds something. There's some experiences that maybe you've been through that you've learned how to address that pressure. Like you learned that whenever this happens and oh, it's a bad day, you've learned like expressions from hearing your parents say it or watching a movie or a TV show and hearing them say it. And all of a sudden you think, oh, that's how I'm supposed to respond to pressure. Or maybe you have a sense of some motivations within you. It's like, when that happens, I'm not very motivated to do something, or I'm more motivated to do something else. So now I feel under pressure. An example is that you're sitting here in this room listening to some dude talk about a bottle of Sprite, but you're really thinking about the pressure you have at home. You're thinking about the pressure you have at school, the homework assignment that you still haven't done, and it was due yesterday. You're thinking about all these chores, all these obligations that you have to pay for your own car insurance, and you don't know where the money's going to come from. Side note, March 29th, we're going to give something away, and it could be a gift card, so that could help you with that insurance, so come and see us. All right, March 29th, we'll talk more about it later, okay? But this pressure is what I want to talk about tonight. So real quick, I don't want to pretend to know what you're going through as a teenager. I'm like twice your age, okay? And it hurts my feelings. But I did some research, okay? And here's what I found out from my research. If you can put that slide up there. Here are some of the pressures that we feel. I don't know how clear you can see that, but I will read it out to you. This is a study that was done, and essentially it's saying that That green all the way to the left, that dark green, says they feel a lot of pressure. These teenagers in this study felt a lot of pressure to make good grades. 61% feel a lot of pressure to make good grades. So just real quick, if you would raise your hand if you feel a lot of pressure to make good grades. Wow, that looks over half. I'd say 61%. They nailed it. All right, good job, whoever did this research, Barna or whoever it was. So good grade, 61%. To look good, 29%. Do you ever feel stressed out to look good? All of these hands, y'all should not worry. Y'all all look good. Like y'all don't take that off the list. You don't have to worry about that when you all look good. But we tend to feel a lot of pressure to even look good. So we're over here just shaking up this bottle, feeling more and more pressure. And then you add on there that we just want to fit in socially. Shaking up the bottle to fit in socially. To be involved in extracurricular activities, there's 20% feel that pressure, and I'm still shaking up the bottle. To be good at sports, 21% shaking up the bottle. To help your family financially, 13% feel like they need to help financially. Maybe it's not that you have to help pay the rent, but you hear that there's picture day at school, or that you can get a class ring or a Letterman's jacket, but it's got a tag, a price tag attached to it, and you're like, I'm not even going to go ask mom and dad about that because I know we can't afford it. So instead, you try to work a job to help pay for some of the stuff that you have at school so that none of your friends will know that you're struggling. You feel that pressure mounting. And it goes on from there. And I didn't even know we made the list, y'all, but check this out. To participate in religious activities. I didn't know that teenagers felt pressured to be here. I'm thankful that you do have parents in your life or guardians in your life to say, hey, you're going to get to church. If you can't go on Wednesday, don't have to go anywhere Friday. Right? I am thankful for parents that do that. But I didn't even realize that it made the list of pressure. And then to close it out, pressure to be sexually active. And we'll talk about that in February. Come back and see us as we write the ship. And this is all new material. You may have been through the series, but it's going to be a different conversation. But come back and see us in February about that. And then to drink alcohol or to have sex, to do drugs, there's pressure there, and it gets smaller and smaller. I'm thankful that it's less than the church thing. That's awesome. But nonetheless, we feel pressure. So just real quick, don't admit which one it is, but do any of those ring a bell with you? Just kind of nod your head if that's you. Yeah, okay. So we're talking to the right crowd. Okay, cool. So here's something that I like to do when I feel pressure. When I feel pressure of like, what am I supposed to do? What is it? I'm feeling overwhelmed by something. I think of what my next step is. And as all Christians tend to respond, we think of our next step as, what would Jesus do? And so this is where I'm going to be cringy. I'm going to say, now what would Jesus do? But luckily, we don't have to go very far because Jesus actually gives us two examples. Several, actually. We're going to look at a different one next week. But I want to show you two examples where Jesus was pressured to perform. So just real quick, would you raise your hand? Last time I asked you to raise your hand. Would you raise your hand if you've ever felt pressured to perform? Just raise your hand like you had to do something. I know our praise team, like y'all probably like, yeah, we just got done with it actually. Yeah. So you felt pressure to perform, whether it was a sporting event, an extracurricular activity, whatever it may have been, you felt pressure to perform, maybe in the classroom with your grades, but you felt pressure to perform. But check this out in Matthew chapter 16, verse 1, Jesus was asked to perform. And I want to compare that to a time that he was also asked to perform. It'll be on the screen for you. But Matthew chapter 16, verse 1, check this out. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him. Anyone have a test this week? Sorry, I didn't mean to raise your hand. I lied. I'm sorry, forgive me. So a lot of tests coming up. So he felt tested. He felt that pressure. They were testing him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. I'm going to be real with you, okay? I know that they're supposed to be the bad guys in this story. I would love a sign from heaven. I would not stop talking about a sign from heaven. In fact, I have to share you a sign from heaven. There was a time when I was approached by Micah, and he said, hey, what do you think about preaching? Now, preaching's good. Preachers are really good. Like that, I like what they do. What do you think about you preaching? I don't know about that. Like, I don't want to do it because I want to or you want to. I want to make sure that God wants me to. And so we just talked about this in our pre-squad a moment ago, wherever Emma and Anna are. See Emma and Anna. Yeah, right there. We were just talking about this. I spent the next week seeking God. I said, God, you have to tell me this is what you want me to do. And he showed up. If you want to know how, you got to come back next week because I got to keep going. We're short on time, all right? So here's what happened. So he's asked, he's tested, and they wanted to see a sign from heaven. And guess what Jesus did? He responded back with the comparison and trash talked them and then walked away. No sign. He didn't perform, which is interesting to me because he's Jesus. I thought that when you call on him and ask, he's supposed to show up, show out. But he said no. But then in Mark chapter 9, a dad comes and he brings his son who is sick. He's like having seizures. He's foaming from the mouth. He's got this demon inside of him that's keeping him mute, and his health is all over the charts, and he has been this way since he was born. Do you know what that means? When you've been that way since you were born, as a parent, you know what to expect. There's pressure mounting as a parent. I know the expectation that my child has always been like this. Nothing is going to change. But one last resort, he brought his son to Jesus. And he said, will you heal him? And he essentially says this to Jesus. He says, will you please help us if you can? And Jesus doesn't trash talk, but he does take a step into it. And he says this in verse 24. It'll be on the screen for you. Mark chapter 9, verse 24. He says, immediately, the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. Because Jesus said, if you can, do you have doubts? And the dad said, no, wait. I do believe. I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. And Jesus responded. And he performed. So for us tonight, caught up in pressure, why is it that Jesus was approached and he had pressure to perform? And in one instance, he said no. In the other, he said yes. What was the difference? One was, in the first one, they were trying to get Jesus to prove who he was. But Jesus, on the inside, already knew who he was. They had they were just trying to test it out to see so they could talk bad about it. They had bad motivation behind why they were asking Jesus to perform. And Jesus said, I know who I am. I don't have to prove it to anyone. So I'm not going to fulfill that request to perform. I'm going to take the pressure. He still experienced the pressure, and he walked away from it. But then when he encounters a father who has this expectation that his child has always been like this, his child is probably always going to be like this, why even try? But he did bring it to Jesus. Why? Because he did trust Jesus enough to know who he was. He just wondered if he would be willing to help him. So the difference that Jesus had in that moment for that dad was he knew that if he responded to the dad, he would be able to unwrite all those expectations that a dad had of his child, knowing that it's never going to change. It's always going to be like this. Jesus saw pressure as an opportunity. You can't avoid pressure. Bad news. You can't avoid it. You're going to always have pressure. But the good thing about pressure is that it's what gives the beverage its pop, its excitement. It's what makes it worth drinking. Did you know that some people would prefer this over this? Everyone going on the Daniel fast right now at our church they would probably just about take me down just to get a sip of this. Because it adds a little something that has more flavor to it. The pressure that you feel, I don't want you to look at it as pressure anymore. Not after tonight. And the reason I'm using the bottle is because every time you see a soda, I just want you to think pressure is a privilege. I want you to think pressure is another opportunity, because Jesus saw an opportunity to help that dad and that son know how much God loves them. Pressure is nothing more than an opportunity for you to make a decision on showing and sharing Jesus or ignoring Jesus. Can you put that list back up there one more time, Corey? And then we're going to close this message, I promise. When it comes to your grades and you feel that pressure, that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to go to that teacher and say, you know what, because of who God is, I'm going to respect who you are. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to listen because of who you are. Because of God, I know that it would honor God if I respected you, so I'm going to show respect. I'm going to sit here quietly. And while I'm sitting here quietly, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to actually hear what you're saying about sports marketing 2 honors. Shout out to all my sports 2 kids, right? I'm going to hear that. And you know what's going to happen all of a sudden? My grades are going to change. Just because I was giving honor to God, things start falling into place. And this will make more sense in week 3. You got to come back and hear it. But it starts falling into place. The next one says that I'm stressed to look good. And y'all already look good. Don't be stressed. Y'all's hair is phenomenal. But get this, as we close, if I treat my body like it's the church, like it's the temple that God created, this is a building that we call church. You were created as the temple where God resides when you accept him into your heart. So when you treat your body like God's residing in there, all of a sudden what you consume is healthier for you. What you do, what you eat, what you're doing with your body, what you're putting on and around your body to honor God. When you say, hey, how I present myself to you is how I want to honor God. Here's something that this is just a fact that you probably never picked up on. But anytime I get in front of you guys to speak or I go anywhere to talk about Jesus, I always shave. I'm going to shave my neck. I'm going to trim my beard. If you invite me to your school, if I'm going to speak at your school, before I get there, I'm going to shave. Because I want to be presentable because of who God is, and you've invited me into where you are, and I want to make sure I represent you well, because I'm going to try to be the one that ties you to Jesus and that person that may hear about Jesus when I'm there. I want to present myself well because of who God is. It's another way that I worship who he is. But it kind of rubs off on you. And it spreads. Why? Because now it presents another opportunity. So your last question as we close in prayer. How will you look at pressure from now on? As something that's daunting, that's never going to go away, that you'll always have to deal with, that's painful? Or is another opportunity to show and share who Jesus is and how much he loves you and those around you? Let me pray for us. Hey, I'm Josh Carter. Thank you so much for stopping by to view this message. If your next step is to receive Christ as your Lord and Savior, we are so excited for you and we want to help you take that next step. So jump in the description and click those links to find out what following Jesus is all about, what that means, and of course, what's next. And if your next step is baptism, we would love to schedule that for you. So just go to CrossPointe.church, select next steps, and get baptized, and fill out that application, and we will schedule that day with you. So super excited for you. But again, thank you so much for viewing this week's message. Have a great day, and God bless.